All right, welcome back to the show, guys. Today's episode number 63. So we're moving right along. Today, I got another special guest for you guys. Stud in the industry. I met Zach through Sam Taggart, his mastermind, and Zach kind of took me under his wing. I was brand new to the industry of door to door. He took me under his wing and he taught me a lot of things. He's done some trainings for our sales guys in the past. And every time I reached out to Zach, he was super helpful. So I wanted to bring him here, introduce you to the world, Zach. And thanks for being here. And thanks for everything that you've done in the past for me. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I just really, really enjoy like getting outside of what I'm so used to. So making a new friend and being, helpful in any regard is fun.
And so Zach, you're equity branch manager partner at NineFold Marketing. I think you guys also owned Evergreen Pest Control as well.
I was just going to say we have Evergreen and Greenway and Green Line. So we have 3 different names depending on where the branches are located, but Evergreen is the big one.
Gotcha. What was the purpose of the 3 different names?
Well, when we started our first branch in-house, prior to us owning all the accounts, we had actually marketed for Terminix to get the money together to launch locations internally. And we launched in Washington State, which is the Evergreen state. So it was Evergreen Pest Solutions. And then as we expanded, the name Evergreen wasn't available. And so we spun off of that with anything we could apply the same logo to, just because it was easy. And so that's the only reason for it. But currently we're tossing around the idea of rebranding all of them to put them under one umbrella.
Are you going to change the name again or going somewhere different, using one of the same ones?
I think there's conflict with most of them. That's why they are not all the same. So we'll likely just identify a name that we can tuck them all under. Probably something that we're not using currently.
Gotcha. Cool. So brings up a first question. You guys were actually a marketing company first. Was it NineFold then or something different?
Back when I started 10 years ago, it was Access Direct Marketing. So we were marketing for Terminix. And then all of the door-to-door reps are hired to the marketing company and then deployed into the branches. So like they're 1099 to the marketing company and then they're deployed into our in-house branches. So we were Access in the beginning. We did those couple summers for Terminix on marketing deals, then rolled that money into the branches in-house.
Right on. Why don't you just tell us your story quick and just tell us how you got in the industry, or you got in the industry, how you got recruited, maybe you knew someone, and just bring us where you started to where you're at today.
So I served at LDS Mission. So I left home and served for 2 years in South Carolina. And that's kind of where I was tipped off to the door-to-door thing, and the guys were making good money doing it. And then when I got home, I was going to college, and the course I was kind of going on, what I was seeking or what I thought I wanted was to get an MBA so I could own and operate a business and have the upside of those things. And while I was doing that, one of my best friends was like, hey, I'm going to go sell pest control this summer. I had already kind of been aware of it, and it was like something that I knew I wanted to do. I just hadn't really sought it out after I got home from my mission. I was focusing on school and stuff. And so had a couple of meetings, and it was just my buddy that was like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. Do you want to come out and do it? And so like, yeah, I'll go do it. Like, I'm not doing anything better in the summer. So my first summer I went up to Seattle, Washington. It was the first year we had our own like in-house thing. And I sold up there. And I guess to really tell the whole story, I wasn't in love with it. It was good. It was fun. I actually really loved the culture of sales, like just a bunch of guys competing, trying to get better. It's a good thing to be part of. And then I only agreed like emphatically to go back for a second summer because I didn't hit my financial earnings goal from the first one. So the first summer I was like, if I'm going out here, I got to make 25 grand. Granted, this was 11 summers ago, so the money thing is very different now. And I made 18,000. And so I was like, I got to go back and make 25 grand. Well, then the next summer I went out and I made 89,000. And so at that point it was like, oh, I got to keep doing this. Like, I'm making a lot more money in 3.5 months than a lot of adults are. Because at the time, I mean, if you go back 10, 11 years ago, like an adult making 100 grand wasn't as common as it is now. You know, everybody makes 100 grand now, it seems. You need to, really. And so Went back for a third summer and made like 170,000. And then I just kept going. But during that third summer, the company I was working for, they rolled out this equity model, this partnership thing. And they're like, hey, for these guys that are recruiting these teams and bringing the volume, we want to split the ownership 50-50. So if you fund the location, you buy in, you pay for it, it's going to be 50% of the total cost. But we want to allow you to split it with us. And so um, after my fourth summer, going into my fifth summer, that's when I partnered into a branch. So partnered in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think the total investment that I put up to fund 50% of it was like 161,000, right over 160. And yeah, so that's how it started. And then since then, I've funded some more, and I've had guys that I've trained go into like ownership, and so I own a little bits and pieces all over the place of what they're doing. Um, yeah, I guess that's my whole story. So now, going up on year 11, it's been really good.
It's awesome. I have a lot of questions. I'm going to go back to your sales rep days when you're first starting out. First year you made 18K. Year 2, you jumped to 89K. What was the difference between you as a first year and you as a second year to growth? I mean, you just put on an additional, 70,000?
My first summer, I sold like after cancels and stuff, 136 accounts. I think in total, I sold like 170 something, like serviced that many. And then my second summer, in the month of May, I serviced 88 accounts in 3 weeks. And so I had done over half the volume in a 3 week span. And so I think the biggest difference is like going into a second summer, you know what to expect. You understand what's at stake. There isn't an additional learning curve. You got that out of the way the first summer. And I remember my first summer, the last day of the summer, all the techs had gone home, like the summer techs. So we just had the regular guys running the regular routes. And it was my last day. So I took a truck by myself and I went and sold in the same day 6 accounts. And I remember when that was happening, I was like, man, my skills are finally here. Like, I know how to do this. I'm good at it. And so then the next summer, I serviced like 370 accounts. And I took out the other difference is I took out 4 of my buddies. So between the 5 of us, we did like 1,300 accounts. I was the only experienced guy, but I had some good rookies. And so that's what made the difference. Back then, we weren't like, nothing was based on revenue, which seems so stupid.
It's all just based on accounts.
Yeah, it was all just based on accounts. So like, if I go back to what was the revenue, you'd have to go like 1,300 accounts, times like a $470 contract is what they were back then. Yeah, I mean, so and I guess in not necessarily retrospect, but I've been in this game so long that the rules have kind of changed. Like we don't play the accounts game anymore. It's the revenue game. Like if one of my reps sells a $470 contract, like he's making like, huge deductions for doing that. Like it's not even profitable for forever. So the game's changed a lot since I got in. But yeah, back when I started, that's what it was.
Do you think, is that super common to go from 18 to like 89 your second year? Do you see that across the board?
No, I wouldn't say it's common, but I'd say everybody could do it. I think that, I've seen guys do it a lot, but if I take every rookie I've ever seen that comes back for a second summer, I'd say it's like less than 10% of them for sure that triple or quadruple their earnings. But you hear about it all the time. I mean, industry wide, you hear about guys coming out and doing like 200 and then doing 900 the next summer.
We had a guy that did 50 accounts his first year.
Wow.
This was last year or 2 years ago. Young kid, just super shy. Didn't like to talk, but he was just a work. He loved to work. Like he just put it in the work, and 50 accounts. And I can't believe he stuck with it. I'll be honest with you. Like I can't believe, but he was bought into like the culture. He loved the atmosphere like you did and stuck it out. He left for the year and I was like, man, there's no way he's coming back. Like there's no way. He came back again this year. Like you, he put up like 75, 80 accounts in his first month.
Yeah.
he just came back. Like he did a lot of readings, a lot of self-development on his own. He read the 10X Grant Cardone, and like changed his life forever. Just the one book. And he came back and he came in a whole new person. Like his confidence level was through the roof. Like it was absolutely incredible. So it can be done, like you said.
For sure it can. And I think that it doesn't just happen naturally. You know, these guys that are jumping and doubling or tripling their production, they're using that off season as a preparatory time, or they're improving. Their mental improves or whatever it is. But I would say the sales game is mostly mental.
Yeah, that's what I always tell my guys. It's 90% mental and 10% skill.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing about the skill part is it's very mutable and trackable. Like you can change it and track the changes. The mental stuff just shows up. Like you see it on the board. You see it on the scoreboard. And like you may not even know it's happening, those incremental gains mentally, but when they happen, it's awesome to see.
It's really cool. And then the next question I have for you is when you paid the $161K to start up your own branch to buy in, did they take out that off of your back end, or did you have to have a cash up front, or how did that work?
It was a little bit of both. So a little bit of cash up front. And then based on that first summer's volume, the big expense is commissions. You know what I mean? And so when it was time for commissions, I had to pay 50% of the commissions that needed to be paid. So that came out of my back end. And then we actually increased the volume so significantly the second summer that I had to put in more money because we didn't have enough recurring from the first summer to pay back end. So that's those 2 summers. Yeah, that's where the one's 160.
No, is that 161K? Does that go to trucks, or is it basically just for putting in the popper commission?
It's everything. So it's, in the initial investment before the summer starts, where it's like leases for apartments, the furniture we need, trucks, sprayers, initial batch of chemical. But then as the revenue starts coming in, it can pay for the next chemical, the next trucks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And how many trucks did you guys have your first summer?
I don't even remember, to be honest. I couldn't
like
tell
1,
you.
2, 3.
Probably less than 5, probably like 4. I don't know. Yeah, I think now we've got 21 or 22.
Yeah. And what was it? Why New Mexico?
So what had happened was there was a guy that was a couple years older than me in doing this, and he funded it initially and quit. So it was just there. So I didn't buy any of the existing accounts. I just purchased everything from that point forward. So I funded all the growth from that point forward. But there was right now there's maybe like 500 accounts that are still there, after 2 summers of him doing it or something. There's very little still recurring. But New Mexico at the time is the exact same that it is right now. It's not like there's nowhere to go. You have Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and like that area. It's like a little over 1 million people. And so it's not really attractive for people to go to, because like once you knock that out, you got to travel 2 or 3 or 4 hours to get to the next populated area. So it's kind of like landlocked, so to speak, where there's not this massive populace. Guys aren't going to choose to go there. And in the door-to-door game, and I guess in the pest control game, the biggest threat to your accounts is guys like me. It's door-to-door reps, right? Like if you're just sitting pretty in a market that has the company that owned the market when we got down there had like 22,000 accounts, and now they have less than 10. So we're bigger than they are now residentially. But their problem was that we showed up. It was that door knockers showed up. And so it puts pressure on them. So we had an existing branch in Denver that had a ton of door-to-door competition, and the retention was good, but it wasn't great. We get down there, and in all the markets we're in now, it's the same deal. We've tried to go with these smaller markets that do have room for growth. That you can build a big, healthy business in, but that's not going to attract, just the like Aptiv will probably never show up down there. Like they just wouldn't do it. It doesn't fit their model. And so we're kind of a unique thing in the door-to-door space, because our whole MO is to build a profitable business. It's not to be the biggest door-to-door company. It's not to be the most attractive, like that type of a thing. We're building profitable businesses and allowing guys to get a piece of those. And so it's just different. We attack markets differently. We're not in a Dallas. We're not in, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Is it always is the equity split always a 50-50, or is it just how much they were willing to put in or how much you're willing to give up?
No, so it's changed now because it's gotten so much more expensive to do. Like, if you could fund, like you, I mean, that business does like 500,000 in revenue every month, and it cost me 160 grand to own half of it. So like, if I sell it at a 2x, it's a little over 10 million bucks. Like that, just you can't build a business like that for 106 or 320,000 bucks anymore in pest control. Everything is more expensive. So our model now is a little bit different, where we allow guys to purchase 20% equity, but it only costs them 50 grand. So they're not actually, because the real cost of 20% now would be like what mine at 50% was then. Guys can't afford a true 50% anymore. Like the last one we did it in, they're not done funding it, and the partner that's 50%, he's into that one like 710,000 right now. So it's like 1.5 million, yeah, because it's in 2 summers there are a little over 8,000 accounts, and so the growth was really quick.
Yeah, that's a lot of accounts in 2 summers. How many door-to-door guys were there?
This summer there's probably 40, and last summer there's maybe like 28 or so.
Okay, cool. So your average, I know you and I talked about this offline before. What would you say like you're looking to get your average branch to?
Well, I think we would consider a branch like fully built if it has 10,000 accounts in it. Like it's sustainable. It's going to replace the attrition based on word of mouth and different advertising, tech sales programs, that kind of stuff.
Yep. I have those questions coming.
Yeah, it depends on the market. Like in Albuquerque, if I have 10,000 accounts down there, I've got 1% of the population paying me money. And that's a big chunk. If you go get 1% of like Indianapolis, you're at 30 or 50,000 accounts at that point.
So for market penetration, do you like the 1%, or do you try to get it up to, or is your goal to get it to 10 to 14%?
I mean, the goal is to do it as big as you can do it and sustain it, right? Like there's no point that you want to just be like, oh, we're too big now. But I don't know. I don't really know, unless you're a Terminix or an Orkin, what it's going to come to through door to door. I don't know how much the market you can own without. I just don't know where the cap is. Do you have any idea?
No, I don't either. I've always just, like said 10 to 14% is actually a really, really healthy way to get in. And that's how I've always used the number of 10% market penetration. But again, we're in smaller markets than you are, way smaller. So it's different.
Right. And if there's not other door to door companies, I think you can do that for sure. So like, what's the population you're playing with?
And I mean, our biggest market right now, well, we opened up a bigger one, but let's just go with 300,000.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be sick, dude. If you had 30,000 accounts there, that's a monster.
But is that doable? It's probably not, right? So like, I think 10% is probably too high. So if you go to 1% and anywhere in between is probably a good spot.
Well, yeah, I think, it depends on, I think there's some factors as far as like where you want to go, because like in Albuquerque or the greater area, there's like maybe 1.2 million people total. And that's going to count people that are way up in the mountains that are 10 miles apart. And it's going to grab 30% of that populace is in poverty. So it's like, you know what I mean? How much of that can I get? And if I'm selling this business to somebody else, they're going to look at it through the lens of, can I grow this thing? So if I've capped it, all they're buying then is a cash flow machine. But most of the guys that are buying these businesses want them to grow and expand. So I don't really know where the roof is or what. If you're trying to hold something, then I think you go as big as you possibly can. But if you want to sell it, I think you find the best point of exit and get out of there.
That's smart. Because we're talking about door to door, do you think, and I probably know your answer, but I just want to ask it anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long do you think you can knock doors in an area without ruining your reputation? Or do you think that it really doesn't matter?
No, I think your reputation is probably built or destroyed by each door you knock, So I think it depends on how you're doing it. We've been down in Albuquerque now, so that I just did my like sixth summer down there, but there was 2 before I got there. And so I've knocked on people's door that remember my name and quote me my prices. Like they're not a customer, but they've heard me get to the price sheet like 5 times. So, my fault for not closing the deal, but like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this individual. They know my name. They like me. But like our reputation's good down there. And so I don't know. I don't think it's a time question. I think it's a, like, what are your practices question? If you, a bad reputation is way harder to fix than a good reputation is to ruin. It just takes like one bad thing.
Yeah. One bad rep, right? One bad, like, but again, with even this door to door, like we got a bad review recently because our truck was parked in the neighborhood for too long. We didn't do anything wrong. It was just parked outside someone's house. We don't get a lot of bad reviews, but it's still like, we didn't do anything.
Yeah. And there needs to be some governing body that says that's not a valid review. Like, cause it's really not. We had a rep, this was years ago, but, he was in kind of some spread out stuff, like dirt road stuff, but wealthy stuff. And somebody they're like, I don't know who this kid is. I think he's trying to steal people's children, is like where this went. And it blew up on like community Facebook pages. And it was like 2 or 3 years before we could go knock up there again. And he had done nothing wrong, like nothing. Like this kid, we never had issues with him. He was great. And this one lady just went crazy. So I think, like I said, it's easier to ruin a good relationship than it is to fix a bad one. And now we go knock there all the time. It's not a problem. But it took a couple of years for that to repair itself.
And because I'm sure you don't want bad reviews, just like none of us do. What are the things that you do to mitigate those? Is it more of just training?
As far as with the door-to-door guys, I mean, that's where the majority of the bad reviews are going to come
all
from,
of them. Right? It's never the service, right? Ever. It's always the door-to-door.
Right. Yeah, I think I just set really good, like a standard. Like, hey, if you're acting this way, you're not working here. Like, hey, I understand your temper you can lose it. And, but I always like, and maybe I'm just a little bit wrong in this, or I'm too aggressive, but it's like, if somebody comes at me, like I'll do what I can to alleviate the situation, but I'm also not going to just like roll over for somebody because they want to bully me. So, I've had some bad reviews pop up on there for me knocking doors, and I was building that thing. I was just in dog mode, and it's like, I'm doing whatever I can. And, I think ultimately you just be respectful and like, let it slide off your back when somebody's not, just keep moving, and you're not there to get in arguments or to cause turmoil. You're there to get deals. And so you just keep moving and go get the next one. And I think in addition to that, it's just looking and acting presentable at all times, just like make sure you got an ID on you, make sure the things that they would want to see can check out. And I don't see a reason for people to leave bad reviews after that. It was, I think it's pretty easy to not get bad reviews. But then you'll have these people that like about the truck or whatever, like they'll happen. But
yeah, and I think any normal person looking at that would be like, well, they're not even a customer. Like they've never even had their service. They're just going to find that one person, What's I looked at the weather. The weather in Albuquerque is like 46 degrees right now. Do you guys get a lot of snow in that area?
I think since I've been down there, they've had 1 year where the snow stuck on the ground. So no.
With having the winter services like that and still getting cold, still gets freezing, still gets snow, do you have a lot of people that still want to cancel their service in the winter?
No, not generally. Like we educate them on it when we sell them. Albuquerque is pretty bare. Like it's just rocks and gravel and dirt and sand. And so if it's too cold outside, the bugs are coming inside. So when we go over in the sales process, like this is when we come out to service, you're going to have a service in December. Here's the value of that. We explain it. So no, we don't see a spike in the wintertime.
What about in a colder market, like maybe a Denver or a Utah?
In Utah, no, I really think it's all about the education. And I can just speak for myself. Like I live in Utah, we service my own house. Right. You see more bugs in the winter. Like, it's like, I understand it. And it just educating people, they're going to see the bugs if they're paying attention, and just teach them, call us if you see something. But no, we don't see a massive spike in the winter. It might ebb and flow a little bit, but not too bad.
I'll switch gears a little bit. Cause we're talking about like, we're talking about retention now, right? What are some things that you guys have done as a company to help with retention other than training, obviously educating the customer at the initial sale, showing them the 4 times you're coming out for the year? Other than that, what are you guys working on?
Yeah. I mean, after it's out of the sales rep's hand, it's all in the service, it's all there. So a few years back, maybe 4 years ago, all of my techs are assigned a zip code, and like that's their route. So if there's a big enough zip code, then it gets split. But those customers, like when they see this guy over and over and over, and his objective is, I got to get a good review, I got to like do these things, then he starts to build relationships with them. And so like I've knocked on customers' doors on accident, and they'll be like, oh, Edward was just here. I'm like, oh, sick. How'd he do? And they'll be like, oh, he did great. We love him. We love that he comes by. But I think the relationship thing first. And I always have found it odd when I knock on somebody's door, like, no, we love our bug guy. And I'm like, oh, cool. And if I know the company, like there's a company called Home Team in New Mexico, and they have one tech that if I'm in an area and they're like, we love our guy, if I hear his name, I just leave. Like, I'm not going to get his customers. It doesn't matter if the deal's better. It doesn't matter if I offer it for free. I'm not getting them. And so I started to realize that this company does that with their guys. And so I just implemented it with ours. I told my partners in charge of the service side, I said, we should do this. And they got it done. And so like of our existing customer base, we lose like 1.2 to on the highest months, like 2%, but it's like 1.5 and lower every month. So it's really low. And for a door-to-door program, I think a traditional one is better. But I think that was a big thing we did. And then two, like every time, just touches with the customer, I think are important to build familiarity, build relationships. So like when our guys get done, they send a text message like, hey, Maria, here's what I saw. I saw this. Keep an eye out for this. Call me directly here if you need something. Just like making it personal. And then we even gone as far to like do video messages after if the customer's not home. Like, here's what we saw. I took a couple pictures. Bam, here's what we cleaned up. And I just think anything you can do to enhance the experience for the customer and make it as easy, like make it as much like Amazon as you can, where all they have to do is like pay their bill and you show up, get the job done, give them a report, make sure they understand what's going on, make sure they have super easy access after the fact. If they have nothing to complain about, they're not going to leave you. Like if they don't have some sore spot, they're not going to go find somebody else.
The places that you knock, maybe the demographic that you knock is important as well.
Yeah. I mean, if I was to tell anybody like how do I get the best retention ever? I'm like, knock the richest shit you can find.
Because they just don't care.
And nobody else knocks it. Like you got to be good. If you're good enough, you can knock that stuff. You got to be able to level with these people that make a ton of money. And I think the other thing, when you charge more money for something, we've tracked our retention is a lot better if the accounts are above like the $800 mark, like significantly better retention at years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I think is there's a transactional mindset of I'm paying good money for this. I'm not just going to throw it away versus like, oh, this is a $45 service. It doesn't matter. Like it's cheap in their mind. It's not a bargain or a value. It's just cheap. And if it is nice, you know what I'm saying? Like if my Crocs get ruined, sick, I'll throw them in the garbage and buy a new one. But like if the pair of shoes I have on today get ruined, I'm really upset about it. And so it's just the value proposition in the customer's mind. What I would tell you is charge as much as you can, like ethically charge for what you're doing. Don't blur that line, like be responsible. But second, you want to find the right customers. And this is consistent across models. Like in any business, your highest paying customers are your best customers. They're the repeat ones. They're the ones that come back. They're the ones that use the service and utilize things. And so, and what I think it is a value thing. To somebody with money, they don't care what it costs. They only care if the value is there. And so if you can plug into that demographic and that's yours, nobody's going to take it.
Yeah, I love it. And we found that same thing. Like our richest neighborhoods, they don't cancel. But if we send a few guys into the hood to go get trained up, like those guys, they just cancel.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You're just getting reps. Like they're just getting repetitions. Like those aren't going to stick. You're not going to get paid, but go get some wins,
Yep, for sure.
And then I think the other thing is if you're in like a mid-class neighborhood or like not real high-end stuff, the more volume you have, the more familiarity there is. If they're seeing the truck in there constantly, routes are super, super dense in that stuff. And I think it creates a sense of almost like accountability. Like, oh, Jenny's house just got sprayed. I can't not get mine sprayed type of a thing. it creates a little bit of that. So Albuquerque's not like a high income area. Like I think it's the poorest state west of the Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken, like lowest income per household. And so it's on paper, it doesn't look like good market. And it's not one where you're going to go push $1,000 contracts. You're just not. They don't make enough money to do that. But you can push healthy ones. And then in most of that whole entire demographic is like middle class or right below or right above. Like they're right in there. Not a lot of upper class and then a good portion in like poverty. But that middle class is our bread and butter because that's the majority of the population. And I think in there it's a volume game and then just a customer satisfaction game. Like do more than they expect you to do every time. Like just do it. It's not that hard, right? Just be like, hey, I love your gardening, like, or whatever it is. I remember the dog's name. It doesn't matter. Like do something more than what they anticipate you doing. And then make sure they see your trucks as often as possible just to build familiarity.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that we teach our techs too is make sure that you're doing one act of kindness all the time. I don't care if the customer sees it or not. Like that's not what it's about. Just going above and beyond. It's really smart. Just like again, and you brought up like the touches part, like the more touches, like in the small things like that. And there's always just been people who say the more touches, the more they cancel. The less touches, the least people cancel. But you're saying like you like more touches.
If they're good ones. I mean, if they're good, it's like I had the first like guy that was a service guy that I ever like had a good relationship with was the branch manager up in our Seattle branch. And I still stay in contact with him, 10 years later. And he's now doing a 6 service program where we do a 4. So he goes every other month. And he was just telling me, he's like, I prefer this because I get to see them more. Like we build a relationship quicker. And, if we're talking about making money and the profitability on 6, you got to charge significantly more than per service than you do for 4 to get the same profit. So with door-to-door stuff, you have to charge even a larger amount to get profit because of the commissions. So you go to 6, I think really you need to be averaging like $200 a service or more. So with us, that's kind of tough in these markets, that we're in some of them. And so if we stick to 4 and we get an opportunity to reservice, right? Like let's not look at that as a bad thing. If we get an opportunity to go back out there and get an additional touch, make it a damn good one. Like make a good impression, make them feel like you care. And so like, yeah, I mean, if they say more touches are bad, okay, if they're bad touches, right? It's like, and if they're good ones, if you maximize them, if you look at that as an opportunity. And the other thing is if your service guys have a route that is a zip code or whatever it is, and they're based on retention of that thing, like they're bonused on that, then they're really going to take the initiative to go get these good touches. Like if they see Susan for the 10th time that year, like, okay, maybe I'm in hot water with Susan, but I'm going to make Susan love me because I can't lose this customer because I lose my bonus, right? We're all like motivated differently, but it doesn't matter what the motivation is if it brings a good action, if it does a good thing, right? And so I think there's a lot of ways to increase what it really is, the value proposition to the customer. Do they value their interaction with the company? And if you're solving their problems and building a relationship, then I don't see why they would cancel unless they were moving or a financial situation or whatever.
Right. So you obviously don't live in New Mexico. You live in Ogden, right?
Yeah.
In Utah. How has that been to run a business, that's that largest size, 10,000 accounts, and you live in so far away? And how often do you fly back and forth? And
I'm only down there in the summer months. So just when there's teams down there, my partners, they manage all of the service and ops side. I don't do anything with it. And so they're hiring, firing, ordering trucks and whatever to keep it going in the off season. And then when we go down there, that's kind of the really cool thing about our model is I didn't take on additional responsibility. I just continued to do what I did.
So you're just sales, marketing, recruiting.
Yeah, I just recruit, train, lead, like get the volume, bring the accounts. And so, yeah, it's been good. Like I wouldn't, if I had to live down there to own the business, I just wouldn't do it.
For sure. Well, I mean, you just built a pretty sweet house, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's sweet. So
It looks pretty fun.
yeah, I love it. It's been really fun for the family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, like I said, like just being so far away, like in your business partners, they control the whole operation side, which is obviously really nice. You have multiple offices though. Have you noticed a difference from one office to the other, and which one is better or worse? Like just in general, the way it's ran, maybe it's growing faster or less cancellations. Like
Yeah. So we're in the ones that I own are in Boise, Ogden, Richmond, South Carolina, and New Mexico. And they're very different. The demographic of people is different. The branch manager in charge is different. We definitely have some are better than others.
that was my question. I was hoping you'd say that. I was just trying to word it the right way. Do you think, and I know the answer, but do you think it's the general manager in that location that is the bottleneck, or that is really really good, that makes it a really good branch?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you'll meet a guy or you'll have guys be like, well, I have this external thing, this external thing, this external thing. I throw this guy in that branch and now it's a me problem. It's not this external thing. And that is the difference.
Have you tried that? Like sending one guy?
Oh yeah. We've had, I mean, if we have to let somebody go and then we groom most of our branch managers internally and then we locate them to where they need to go. So if one of them goes and we plug somebody else in, it's like, oh, that's the difference. It's always a personnel problem. It's the same thing in sales. If one of your teams isn't producing, it's a personnel problem. It's not an area problem.
Right. I agree with you. And that takes me right into my next topic, which you and I talked about a little bit before. Like, I love your guys' leadership development part. Like, can you like touch on some of like maybe you don't know the whole tech side, but you can walk us through it from like for tech to be a lead, and then from maybe starting out as a sales rep to having equity.
Yeah. So, everything on the sales side is metric based and performance based. And on the tech side, I don't know. Truthfully, I know what happens is they're just a regular guy, and then they'll become like a lead tech or an assistant to the branch manager. And then at that point, two things happen. The branch managers don't want to lose those guys. So like they want them to stay there because it makes their life easy because they're really good. But those guys, if they're really ambitious, like, hey, what does it take for me to have a branch? Like, because they make a lot of money, like my branch manager in, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but because everyone else is going to look like crap. But down there in New Mexico, I mean, he makes like 270 grand a year, like he crushes it. So if you make 100 grand a year in New Mexico, you freaking live however you want, like you're top tier. But I mean, but he runs that thing so good. Like he's getting the bonuses, he's earning them, right? Like, because he does it. And so it's like if you rip a good guy like that out and plug him into somewhere, he's going to fix the problems, right? And I don't even remember what your question was, but
We were just talking about the general manager. Like, have you noticed like one general manager is better than the other? And if like an area is suffering, is it typically a personnel problem like that?
yeah, it's always a personnel problem. And I think people act like businesses or like pest control or whatever you want. It's like unique, but like look at the NFL. You change general managers and the team wins. Like, Tom Brady to the Bucks and the team wins. Yeah, it's a personnel problem. It's nothing else. And so that's it in business too. It's like if the model works, if the model's not going to crumble, but the model isn't working, it's likely you got the wrong people in the wrong places. You got to move some pieces around.
And then on the sales side, when they come in, they know their career path from day one, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think generally I think there's kind of a balance. You don't want to overwhelm them with information and like set this big thing out there that they initially are going to be like, I'll never achieve that because I'm not producing. And I think what I've learned about sales is it's not a linear progression. It's a very steep progression that will then do this, but the beginning is steep. And so generally, like after the first summer, if a guy produces really well and he does what he should, and even if he didn't produce well, but I can see that he has it, because I didn't produce well my first summer. Like it was fine. I wasn't like top rookie. I wasn't, a killer. But this next summer, I was top 4 in the company, and I stepped up. So, I think if you cast the vision when you know that they'll accept it or when it'll mean something to them. If I bring in and sit a guy down and I'm like, hey man, this is why we're so great, you can own something. And he's like, I don't even know how to do the job. It's like, okay, probably waste a breath. Let's just teach you how to do the job and then we'll get there later. But as soon as guys start taking it serious, I just want to map out exactly what needs to happen for them to do this thing and let them know, hey, I want to help you do this if it's what you want. If you want to pursue this, I want to help you. Let's go get it done. And so really the threshold's not really high right now. If a guy does $1.5 million, he can the next year just throw 50 grand in it and own it 20% of his book of business from that point forward. If him and his guys do $1.5 million. So
let's just say it's him and his downline, right?
Correct. Yeah. And then if someone in his downline does it, now he's got a $3 million downline or whatever, that kid can go on 20%. And then the other guy gets 10% of that. Like 10%, there's a total of 30% to be divvied out.
Yep. I like that. Smart. We relatively pretty much do the same thing. So it's awesome. But I learned from the best people in the industry. So it helps.
You've done so good at just networking, getting involved.
Again, I went all in on this thing, and I had Sam on last week, and he's like, "You're just this little quiet kid that sat in the back and didn't really say a whole lot." I'm like, "I'm not the quiet kid at all. I was just trying to learn as much as possible."
Yeah, no, I remember because I think you're older than I am, but I remember meeting you at these things and the questions you asked and stuff. I was like, oh, he's dead serious. Like, he's not just here to be here. But then it was watching you go back and execute, and I'd talk to you about, you'd call me for follow-up stuff or whatever, and I was like, dang, he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
Because of how serious you took it.
And again, I didn't really have a choice, right? Like, kid from a small town, you can't really grow a big business. And then the next closest town is a few hours away, but COVID forced me there, right? So I didn't have a choice. I had to figure it out. But going back to the leadership development, you guys do a lot of internal leadership stuff, like a lot of retreats, a lot of things like that. Can you kind of just talk us through your culture and what you do to build your leaders like that?
Yeah, I think there's a multifaceted approach. You can do experiential stuff for people, but leadership really is an accountability more so to other people than to yourself. When you're endowed with that responsibility to lead, and now it becomes about the people. And then from that point, it's just skill development, because leadership is a skill. When you're dealing with 30 personalities, right? Leading people is like herding cats, they're all different, and some are going to listen, some aren't. And for me, it's when I'm dealing with these guys coming up, I need to understand how they operate at a baseline. Who is this kid, this guy, without all the leadership skills? And then if I understand that, I can know how to help him. If I know what his tendencies are, I know how he views other people, I know how he's going to act in situations, then I can head off concerns before they become that. I can train him on, hey, if there is this personnel situation in an office, run me through how you would deal with it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to critique you and help you do it better. And so I think developing leaders is a very, for lack of a better term, it's not like a slap an event together and it's going to work. It's more like an intimate process, right? Because if you and I go into the same program and they don't identify the differences in how you operate and how I operate and how you learn and how I learn, and we just get a leadership presentation, you and I are going to both go back and do different things. We're going to the thing that really hit us, that's what we're going to execute on, right? But when you're trying to get a specific result out of a group of people, you got to have your standards of this is what we do, this is how it gets done. You have to have accountability, and then you've got to inspire and lead them. You have to do all of those things. There's got to be, and the standards and the mission, that's what they're tied to. But you, me, and 10 other guys could be tied to that, but have different skills, different attributes, different tendencies. And so we're all going to go about our execution of the thing differently. So to get people on the same page, you need your leadership across the board to execute the same task the same way that the next guy would, so that there's cohesion, so that people can be handed off and do what they need to. And I think you got to reward your leaders. I think that's what the retreats are for. They need to feel special. They need to feel like a leader. In any sports organization or anything else, when the leader walks in the room, he walks in different. And your guys, if they are going to be a leader, they probably need to have that air about them. But what I have found in anybody is most of the time, most guys only believe in themselves if it's externally validated by other people they believe in, right? There are those rare individuals that up against all odds, like Daniel in the lion's den, they're going to believe in themselves, right? They're just going to. But most other people don't know how great they are until someone tells them about it, because we look at ourselves through a lens of just being critical. Like if someone's like, hey, tell me what your superpowers are, I'm like, I can tell you all my weaknesses. I don't have a clue. Like I can tell you where I suck because that's what I focus on. But if you ask my best friend that I work really closely with, like, tell me what Zack's superpowers are, he can just list them. And if you ask him what his superpowers are, he's probably going to look at himself with a critical lens. But I don't look at him with that lens. I look at all of his strengths. And so I think as leaders, it's our job. If we are going to call somebody to that, they need to know really well in intricate detail why we think they're worthy of it, what we think their strengths are. And they need to believe that. And they need to believe that you believe that. So when they walk in a room next to you and you walk in with them, they walk in like you. And people understand that. Now, I don't think people need to bow to me as a leader. I don't think that at all. They don't need to hold me in some different air, but they need to know that I hold myself in a different air, that my standards for me are higher than their standards for them. And I don't try to impose that on them, but as a leader, it's my job to have those standards. I have to operate there or I'm unworthy to lead, right? Like I got to be there. But what I think is maybe missed often is, I don't know why this is common in people, but we're more prone to being critical than we are celebratory. Most people. And there's nothing worse you could do probably for your culture than that. If you want your guys to step up, they got to believe in themselves. If you're going to give them the opportunity to lead, you can never stop telling them why they are worthy of that and why they're good for it and why they need to be doing it. And the only reason that that's ultra important is because they've got to get to the point where they believe that so deeply in themselves that they now are accountable to that image of themselves and they perform like that. And now they're ready to be a leader, right? But like leaders are created, they're not called. There could be an open vacancy and you throw somebody in there, but now you got to build the thing, the guy. You got to build the man or the woman or whoever it is. And so I think, you have the events, you do the things, you make leadership an experience, but to get the people to step up, Jonas, there's very few people in the world like you and like me that are just going to do it, that they just believe in themselves. They can do it. Small town, don't care, big dreams, I'm sending it. That's a very rare thing. And so there is the 1 to 3 to 5% of us that will just go do the thing and lead. But if you're developing leaders, that means you're taking, in the word developing a leader, you're taking somebody who's not and making them that. And so most of that responsibility falls on you as their direct leader.
And that's just not skill, right? Like that's like everything, like as far as lifestyle, their health, the gym, exercise, all the above.
When you're leading people, I think EQ is more important than your skills. Like your emotional intelligence. Do you understand these people? Do you understand what makes them tick? Do you know how to get this guy fired up and this girl fired up, and you know how to make all of them loyal to you in the process? Like, yeah, it's all of those things. But if you don't understand yourself at a base level, then you can't understand other people. And so the EQ, I mean, there's so much that goes into leadership. So it's like a topic that you could burn at both ends and never get to the middle. Like it's so deep. There's so much that goes into it. And the best leaders somehow make it look effortless. They just do it.
I like that. So at your leadership retreats, what do you guys, I know you probably have a little bit of fun. What do you guys focus on? Do you guys read a book together? Or do you watch a movie together?
Without like calling them weak points or attacking them for like the deficiency, we train on what we need to improve on. We do a lot of role plays. We do a lot of prep stuff. We always do an experience that is challenging, right? Like almost always we're sitting in some cold water. We're climbing a mountain. We're doing a race. We're doing something to get guys to compete, to push hard, to do the thing. And then, I think recognition is really important. If you have a group of leaders, if you're at a retreat, take time to recognize somebody or 2 people or 3 people that are exemplary in the role that they're called to be in. And I think what makes like a really good retreat is that everybody walks away from there probably feeling like not only they desperately need to improve, but that they have the tools to do it. Right? A mentor of mine used to tell me that tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell and have them look forward to the trip. And I think if you want to level your leaders up, you have to be able to tell them what's wrong and why they're failing, but they have to look forward to the improvement. Like they got it, they can do this, and be excited for it. And I think if you have a leadership retreat and they don't leave feeling those 2 things, like Not like they were told to go to hell, but like, hey, there's something I need to improve on, and I'm aware of it, and I have the tools to do it, and I have action items to execute on, and I'm going to be held accountable to it. Right? Like if that can be exciting, you did a good job. So mix in the food, the experience, all of those things, but correct issues and level up your people, and then go win.
That's fire, dude. I love that. If I were to say, hey, Nick, what are Zacks superpowers? What would Nick say?
I think the thing that he sees in me as a strength is likely the thing, and this goes back to kind of the same thing. When we look at other people, I notice the strengths in Nick are my deficiencies, because I'm critical of my deficiencies. So if he's good at it, I automatically recognize it. And he actually sent me a text the other day that I could just read to you, and it'll answer your question. He says, in the world of execution, EQ beats IQ. All effective leadership is about feeling your way through the people and politics puzzle. And he said, this is why you're so damn good. And so I think probably my superpower is just understanding people, like being able to go where they are, sit with them and whatever they're feeling, and help them pull themselves out of that, go harder, go bigger. I think I'm really good at personnel and knowing who to put with who, and how to pair people up, and analyzing strengths and weaknesses, not through a critical lens, but through like we're playing a game here lens, and let's win the game. I think that my maybe biggest weakness that is maybe indicative of my strengths is like, I have a really hard time doing something if I don't like internally care about it. If it's like, hey, we need you to fill this sheet out, I'm like, no, like I hate the sheet. But if it's like, hey, these reps are really struggling, I'm like, I got it. Like I love these boys. I'll go do whatever for them, right? And so the thing I think that's maybe a weakness to me is like, I am emotionally like motivated to do things. But I think that kind of goes back to the EQ thing. It's like I understand emotions at a deep level, and I understand why people do things, and I have a deep love for individuals. Like this is something that I teach my kids, and I think everybody should hold this. I think it's true. But I teach them that everybody deserves your love until they do something to lose it. I think everybody deserves your respect until they give you a reason not to respect them. And I think that nobody deserves your trust until they earn it. And if my kids can treat people like that, if I treat everybody like that, then my life's really easy. I'm never going to get hurt because I didn't give my trust to somebody who didn't deserve it. Right? But if I love all these guys and I respect all these guys, and as their leader, I show up in the depths of their despair and the heights of their wins to take them to the next level, I think that's where I'm the best. Like that's what I am the best at. And I think I'm the best at it because I really enjoy it. You know, it's just those things, you're good at what you like doing. So I think maybe that's probably my superpower, if I had one, is just being able to understand people.
That's great. And has that helped you a ton on the recruiting side?
Yeah, no. I mean, like the problem is I understand when people like give me some BS thing in a recruiting scenario, I just tell them why that's not true. Like I just don't play the game. I'm just like, okay, like here's what it is. But then if somebody is willing to sit down across from me and have like a authentic conversation, we're talking about the job, then yeah, I'll get them, like for sure. Right. But if they're playing the game, if they're like, well, Jonas offered me this, what can you do about it? I'm like, I'm be honest, go with Jonas. Like you haven't you've done nothing. I'm not just going to hand stuff out. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And
I know. I agree. We can't play that game. Like we can't compete against Utah. We're just not going, and we're not going to.
We got to a point where we could play that game. And then all the OGs in the door-to-door space that I could talk to that have come and gone and done huge things, they're like, you don't want to play that game. Like, just don't do it. Like, play at a smaller scale. If the requirement to go to the bigger scale is playing that game, just don't do it. So we didn't do it, you know? But
yeah, that's smart. Yeah, and obviously we can't either, and we're not going to. Like we're just gonna stay away from it all.
You guys are kind of special because you're not like in the Mecca. Like you're not in Utah. So it's like you guys can play by your own rule set. It's beautiful. Like that's how you win. So when you're playing a game that you write the rules for, like you win.
Yeah, but when you're again going back to that though, it was one of my questions that I want to ask you, like because you're competing against these big players in your market. But I've also noticed a lot of guys leaving those big players and going and falling underneath the NineFold umbrella. What's been so appealing to NineFold to get a lot of these returning reps from other companies lately?
Yeah, I think the door-to-door game is really cool. Like it really is. You got these kids, these 22-year-old kids going out making $400,000 or $500,000 in a summer, and if their whole downline falls apart, they're back to square one. If you take my downline from me, I have 5 businesses worth like 12 million bucks. They kick out a ton of profit, and I don't care. Like I'm good, right? And that's the difference. You find these guys that they get gutted. Their region gets gutted, and they've got nothing.
Oh yeah, we've seen it over and over again, right?
Right. And you find these guys that, I mean, the industry is full of people that are way better than me that make a lot less money than I do. And it's because of the equity. That's it. It's just a function of this lever that they don't have the ability to pull. Like it's not even available to them. They can't access the lever. So I think what happens is guys start to get older and they start to have kids. They start to have a family. They look at these things and they're like, I'm not trying to move out of state every summer forever. And then they'll find out what we've done here, that like I live in state until the summer and then I just kind of travel periodically. And I've built these big money machines that kick out profit. So I still get full overrides and commissions, which is what everyone else lives on. But I get dividends and I get profit shares and I have health insurance and I have life insurance, and that's all provided through the business. And so you look at like, take me and any other guy that's been doing this for 11 years at any other company. He could be 10 times bigger than me downline wise. I probably don't care to trade positions with him. So this is just a higher leverage opportunity than anything else that exists in door to door locally here in Utah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. But let's just say this downline comes into New Mexico. How are you prepared to fight that battle? Let's just say another door knocking company shows up, which maybe they are there already. How do you keep your accounts from switching over?
Well, at this point, like we have really good retention, like, and there are other door knockers there. And I actually picked one off from another company, and this kid's like, he's good. He does 600-700 accounts. So he sold in Albuquerque, and then he went to Colorado Springs, and then I brought him back to Albuquerque. But he, because the year he's in Colorado Springs, his non-compete and his non-solicit was up. And so as I'm talking to him, he's like, dude, we cannot switch your customers over. Like we can't. And he said, especially if they're in contract, because your cancel fees are $400. I'm like, yeah, because of you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need the customer to pay that. Like, they don't ever pay it. But it's like when the rep is looking at, oh yeah, I'll just pay your cancel fee. What is it? And it's $400 or $500. Like, they're not going to do that. So I think I have a general rule of thumb that we sell 2-year contracts almost exclusively, but a cancel fee needs to be worth at least 6 months of the contract. Right. So if you're doing $800 a year, it's got to be a $400 cancel fee. And the reason I do that is because I know a door-to-door rep is not going to pay that. He's not going to buy that out. So I have one line of defense against that rep. And then the second thing is I don't mind the war. Like if guys want to show up and play that game, I don't mind. Like I have more reps at my disposal than they do. So I know the area better. Like I know that place. And so we had a team show up this year, and my brother was managing the office. He's like, what do I do? I said, well, where are they? I said, round everybody up and drop them off in the neighborhood. Like, it's a big neighborhood, like big, probably 5,000 or 6,000 homes in this big development. And I was like, yeah, just put all of our guys there. Like, so, they have their team there and we're on top of them. And every door they knock, every 5th, 6th door that answers, it has my service. Our trucks are running around in there. They see 10 different guys that day with our shirts on. They're going to move. And so they move. We find out where they went. We go do it again. We go do it again. And then by the end of the summer, they're gone. Like they didn't finish. They left. And all their accounts are for sale right now. So I'll just buy them. So it's like, it's like you have to protect your house if it comes to it.
Absolutely. Right.
I don't care to play that game, like unless we have to. But it's like, I've spent 10 years of my life, a third of my life building to this thing. And, 5 of those years I've owned this thing, and I sacrificed a lot for this thing. And so if you're going to come and take it, like, okay, let's see who wins. And it's all fair game. I took the other company down, like,
right.
You know,
business is war.
Yeah. I think, I think that somebody will show up. It won't be one of the big players that have 100 reps to throw in there, because you can't. Like, you can maybe run a 25-man team there and you're going to re-knock everything, like, in a summertime. And so, I might have like a 10 or 12-man team show up down there, but that's okay. Like, if they take 1,000 accounts, maybe 200 of them are mine. So, big deal.
Yeah, I like it. What have been some of your biggest takeaways of owning multiple branches?
About just business or pest control, or
I think just business in general.
business isn't hard. It's just challenging, is what I would say. And I teach this principle during the summer because people love to be like, oh, it's just so hard. Like, no, the concrete's hard. Go smack your head against it. Tell me how that feels. The reason you're not able to do this thing is because your capacity to do the thing isn't there yet. So, like, the beginning of the summer, I always tell everybody, I'm like, you're going to feel like this is so hard. Well, guess what? By July, you're going to be cranking. And guess what? The nature of the thing hasn't changed. Your capacity for the thing has gotten better and bigger. And that's just business. It's not hard to do. It's a lot of line items, and it's a lot of work, and it will challenge you, and it will make you cry, and it will break you down, right? But it's not that hard. Like, it's just that you're not capable of it yet. And as you try to stretch that capacity, it freaking hurts, and it takes a lot out of you, and it's not fun, and like, parts of it suck so bad, right? But I think the biggest thing I've learned about business is, like, anybody could be Jeff Bezos. All they had to do is what Jeff did. In business, everything is repeatable. If somebody did it once, it can be repeated. It's not like basketball. It's not like football. It's not like golf. Like, the next time we see a Tiger Woods, it'll probably be his kid, right? Like, it's not athletics. It's not politics. It's just business. It's like, you can write a book on how to do it. And if somebody would just execute every single item, that would work. It's just, business is cool in that way, where it's like anybody could do this if they're willing to do it. And so I think when multiple businesses in multiple locations, it's pretty much like copy and paste, and there's a little bit of variability just based on costs and like Department of Agriculture rules or whatever it is, but that game when you get into those places and you play the game and you get it figured out. But I don't know, I'd say I learned more from the first one than the rest of them, because it's mostly the same.
But then you were building leaders from your other branches that may possibly went over to your new location, obviously. And same thing with like your team lead or general manager.
Yeah, that's how those ones came to be. So, like, South Carolina was two boys that I had forever, and they were bringing the volume and wanted the ownership, so they went and funded that one. And then Idaho was a similar situation, and Utah, a similar situation. And so, yeah, it's really like, when they go do that, they take on my role that I had in that new location. So I'm just kind of a regional at that point, just oversee it, go visit them.
Do you send them a technician, like a really good technician, or do they get their own?
Oh, to run the branch, yeah, we take one internally, but it doesn't necessarily come from mine. It just depends on where they're at.
Okay, gotcha.
So, like, my boys that went up to South Carolina, we opened a Columbia and a Greenville branch up there. So there's two of them, and both of those techs that went up there came out of Denver, but the Greenville branch was my sales guys. But both the good techs were in Denver, and Denver was cost heavy at the time, and so that was an easy way to get rid of some costs and make sure the next two branches were successful.
I like that. What do you see the door-to-door space looking like in the next 3 to 5 years? Do you see it changing a lot, getting harder, easier? What do you think?
I think all of the above. So I think it'll become easier because less people are willing to do it. It's door-to-door in itself is something that will break people. It's so much rejection. It's so challenging. And we're dealing, I can just say this with a high degree of confidence because I've been recruiting 22-year-olds for 10 years.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I know you do. They're just not what they were. Like, they're softer and they break easier. And so I think in a way it'll get easier because I think less people will do it. I think in some ways it'll get harder because local legislation will become more restrictive. Every incident is a chance for this thing to get worse. I don't think it will go away in 10 years. There's always somewhere to knock doors, And I think that, I think with social media, it's going to be harder to stop it because it's going to become a more well-known way for young kids to make money. And really, if all the young kids making a lot of money banded together to fight a lawsuit, nobody could beat them. Like, that's infinite money because there are so many guys making millions of dollars a year in this industry with low expenses. They're 22. You know what I mean? Like, they're 23, they're 24, making $500,000 or $700,000 a year. And so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think the future door to door, I don't think AI is really gonna, it'll help on like ads and leads and that kind of stuff, but it's not going to get rid of the sales guy. Like, it just won't. There's an aspect of human interaction that's becoming less and less normal that people do cherish still. Like, they still really enjoy it. And during COVID, I saw it the worst or I guess the best example. It was the best example of it where people were so secluded that they didn't want you within 6 feet of them, but they didn't want you to leave either.
Yeah. We saw it too.
Yeah, they want that. And so I think what the future of it is, I don't know. But I know that what it is right now is a really good way to build a business and make some money. And I don't see that changing. I think what's changed in the last 10 years has mostly been just how guys get paid. And like, I still sell pest control, same thing I sold before, but we went from like 4 quarterly services that included everything to bundled packages just so we could charge more, to monthly billing, to 2-year contracts. So like, that will evolve. Like, what you can get away with at the door will evolve. But I don't know, man. It's like maybe the oldest standing career in the United States.
My grandpa was going door to door for groceries with a freezer truck back in like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, that's nuts. It's crazy, And so I don't know. I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I think it's really good for people, and the industry will adapt to the rules always. Business people are driven, and they'll figure it out. So if it does get attacked, you'll move to markets that it can't get attacked, and it'll just keep rolling, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I tell it every new kid, every young kid that I talk to, they should do one of 2 jobs after high school. Go be a waiter or waitress, or go knock doors. It'll change your life forever. Especially with the kids nowadays, they're stuck on their phone all the time. They don't even get human interaction. Like, even in between hallways, like, you see it when you're recruiting, I'm sure. They have their earbuds in, they're looking at their phone, they're walking to the next class.
Dude, I freaking do it myself. Like,
there you go.
When I'm busy and running around, like, headphones in all day long, it's like, because I'm picking up a call and on the computer at the same time or whatever it is. It's it's a much harder way to get your dopamine door to door, like, than what they have access to. And so I think that's why people are less and less likely to do it. Like, when you have to earn your wins versus just scroll to get them, it's not as appealing.
That's fire. What about pest control as a whole? Where do you, like, even the door to door side, maybe, where do you see the future of that?
I don't know. I think about this pretty frequently, and I just don't know, like, can technology come along and revolutionize it? I don't know.
Right. What are our blind spots, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but I like knowing the application process of pest control. I just don't know how you'd automate it, And so I think that probably, will products get safer? And I don't know, or really care, to be honest, because I don't think they're dangerous if they're applied correctly. Will they kill bugs better? I don't know. They kill them pretty good right now. Like, I don't know what more you could want out of a product, really. Like, we have products that'll kill everything and not hurt you, And so it's like, I don't know what it'll change. I hope that what it does is, as in the United States, we grow out, not up, like, infrastructurally. We spread houses out and get broader and broader and broader. So I hope what happens is more people have bug problems and we get to service them. Like, that's what I hope happens. But
and I think we're I like, so it's December whatever right now, 20 something, and it's 40 degrees here. We have no snow.
We don't either. Yeah, it was 45 when I went to the gym at 5:30 in the morning today.
So that just tells me that next year, I feel, and I could be wrong, that because it's been warmer, we're going to have more bugs again. And so there's been so my marketing company did a big research, and like over the last year across the country. And they pull all the data, and like landscaping is down like 22%. Lawn care is down 18%. Pest control is up 17%. But why?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, well, this is, I am. So I said, okay, let me think through this. I feel like one, it's one of those services that's needed. You should have to have it. There's more, the pest pressure is higher than it's ever been because of the warmer climates over the last few winters. And three, I feel like there's a lot more marketing people out there talking about it, going door to door, introducing it to more people. I think it's all the above it. I could be totally wrong again. So I'm just telling you what I think. What are your thoughts around that?
I think one big factor is that a lot of people work from home now.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Trending in that direction. So
they see more. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're locked in your house all day and that's your workspace now, yeah, they see more. But too, if you're knocking doors, which I'd be really curious to know, like pest control growth year to year, how much of it is organic versus door knocking? Because I would bet a lot of it is the door knocking. Like you look at the PCT top 100, and the door knocking companies are up there with the big boys. So it's like,
I agree.
I would bet a lot of the growth comes from door knocking. But I think when people are working from home, like they can answer the door. You don't have to wait till 5. They're there right now. And then two, like I saw that during COVID where they would just see bugs because they were in the house. And I think something we're going to see, and I'm curious what the reports after this year say, because credit card debt's at an all-time high in the history of the United States. More people are defaulting on their home loans and car loans.
I think I've seen a statistic that 40% of Americans have reached into their 401k in 2023.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll just stake my flag in the ground right here and say, I hope we get Trump back.
Yeah, absolutely. Something's got to change for sure.
The economics are going to get crazy. If this trend doesn't change, pest control is disposable, right? Like it's a need until it's not. Until this is the bill I can't afford and it's this or Netflix, we're gone. Like we're gone. And so, I'm curious. I wonder what it did this year versus last year as far as the growth goes. But I think last year, people weren't as in bad of a financial situation as they are right now. And I think we're coming out of 4 years of really good financial situations for all Americans. And now people are working from home, making more money than they were working at the office. And, oh yeah, what's $1,000 on pest control, for a year. And I can call you anytime I want to. Yeah. Okay, sick. Let's do it. But now, I mean, this year I don't feel like it changed when I was out knocking, but I wasn't knocking a lot.
No, we didn't see it either.
Yeah. And I wonder at some point our industry will see it.
But what are going to be the first services that drop off? Like, are people going to cut their grass first or get pest control first?
That's a good question. I probably cut the grass first, but they'll just do it themselves. Like, I think it's more normal for somebody to like take pride in doing their lawn than doing their bugs. I don't know. I wonder what will happen. I think like plumbers, electricians, like those guys aren't going anywhere. Like there's just no shot. Like people can't do those jobs in their home, right? But like somebody could do pest. They don't buy pest control because they can't do it. They buy it because they don't want to spend the time to do it, right? It's a convenience thing, but it needs to get done. So is it worth this amount of money for me to not do this job? And that's where we fall. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think unless we have some major issues in the U.S., I do not think this current administration can continue. I don't think there's any chance they get voted back in. At least anyone I know that voted for them regrets it. So that's what I'm basing that off of. But if it doesn't change, then I'm really curious to see the impact that has on our industry, because I just saw a statistic yesterday that like 41% of realtors in the United States missed their December home payment. Like they weren't able to pay their mortgage in December. And so, I think like 60% of real estate agents didn't renew their license this year. There's records of credit card debt, defaults on car loans, more repossessions than ever. Like people don't have money right now. And I think a part of that probably was that they lived in abundance for 4 years and spent like they've been living in abundance for 12. And now they're like, oh no, I don't have the abundance now. So it's happening. But I don't know, man, that's interesting. I don't know what would have caused a 17% increase. I do think there's more awareness. I think there was a lot of people working from home, maybe riding a high of, financial wins for a couple of years. So they're willing to spend money, but I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, me too. Definitely the case. What do the next 5 years look like for Zack, and what do the next 5 years look like for NineFold?
I know that for that duration of time, my head's down and I'm sprinting. Like, let's do this as big as we can. I find myself in a weird situation. I'm 32. What do I do? And if I chunk my life up in 5 years, it's like, for me, Jonas, everything is about the lifestyle that this can afford me. Like, can I have this for my family? This, like, can I have a houseboat that my whole family can go to? Can I have this cabin here? This thing, this thing, this thing. And I only work so I can enjoy life. Like, that's it. Like, that's why I do it. Now, I do what I do, and I love to do what I do. But like, if this job didn't provide me that, I just wouldn't do it. I'd go find one that did. And so for me, I haven't accomplished what I want to in the space. I don't feel like I can check that box. So while I have this, I could retire. I'm not done with it. I'll retire when I want to, type of a deal. But even if I retired, I'd just go back to work doing something different. So for us at NineFold, we're in a position right now where we had someone approach us, and they want to buy 20% of the business for $50 million. And
just take some chips off the table.
Yeah, and give us a lot of money to go do some big things,
That's what I mean. Yeah, just take some chips off the table and give you some money and go do some massive things. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, if we deployed 50 million internally to go get the right guys and open the right markets and do, the right things, we'd get big really quick. And we're in a position where we could digest it. Like, we've been a cash flow positive company for 10 years. So we could make everything work. I don't think that NineFold will ever be the biggest thing in door to door. And the reason I don't think so is because our model is not this instant gratification model. It's like, hey, I mean, guys are really business owners when they're here, and it takes a different level of ownership to do that, and some guys don't want that. They want 120 grand this next summer, which they can get here too. But if they're talking to me or somebody at a different company, that other guy is just going to give them 80%. I'm not going to do that. That other guy doesn't understand the economics of a business, and I do. And so that's the difference. I don't know that we'll ever be the biggest thing, but I do know that we will be the best place for anybody that is going to plant their feet in door to door for 5+ years. If they're not getting a piece of the pie, they should go do something else. They should not plant their feet in door to door for that duration of time.
Couldn't agree more.
Because this is a 10,000 hour thing. Like, you spend so much time recruiting, training, leading, selling. Like, it takes so much of your time that if you're not going to get a piece of this pie and you're not going to leave with multiple millions of dollars, you're stupid, because it is available. Like, it's available. So you're just choosing the lower leverage opportunity. To me, that's just a fallacy. You should not do that. You should like yourself more than that. So I don't know what NineFold will be for me for the next 5 years. I've become really obsessed with longevity. Like, I'm 32, but I want to be the healthiest version of myself that I can be. I don't ever want my children to see me be fat or out of shape. That's a big concern I have, because I don't want fat or out of shape children ever. Like, I don't want them to die young. I want them to live to be old. I want all the people that I want to spend a lot of time with when I'm done with this, I want them all to make a lot of money, because I don't want to leave this thing with a ton of money and not be able to play with anybody. So I want to make anybody in my circle that will do the thing. I want to make them a lot of money. For me, there's nothing that is more important to me in my life than being a good husband and a good dad. If those two things came at the cost of business would be put to the side, period. That doesn't mean I won't miss a game. I will. But I also think a good dad that wants to set a good example and provide probably misses one or two.
Yeah, and I've always said that if we're away and we're winning, they'll forgive us.
Yeah, 100%. And they'll celebrate you, just like you'll celebrate them when you see them again. It's not going to ruin a relationship. But yeah, that's my biggest concern. That's the thing that I care about the most, is being a good husband and a good dad. And it becomes more and more apparent to me that to raise good children now is more challenging than it's ever been. And because there's so much pressure and just false things, like fallacies, just abundant all over the place. So, when this is all said and done, let's say I have a 5-year sprint, what I would like to do is I would like to fund charter schools and go up against the public education system, and create little people that know how to go win, that know how to go do whatever they want with their life. I'd like to do that. But I know that the only way that I can ever do any of those things is if I execute like crazy here. If I take this thing to the moon and do it as big as I can. For me, it's not about pest control, and it never will be. It's about people. Like, I'm not passionate. People are like, man, I don't know how you get passionate about pest control. I'm like, I don't know why you assumed I was. Because I'm not. Like, I don't care, dude.
It's just a vehicle.
Building folding tables. Yeah, it is. Yep. And, I really like Alex Hermosi. I'm sure you do too, because he's a savant in business. And he just says, for entrepreneurs, it comes down to two things, and they all do one thing the same. They're all going to row the boat. The second thing is, what boat are they in? And can it take them to where they want to go? And so the thing that separates two entrepreneurs is one just generally has a better vehicle. But they both are doing it. It's just one's in a better vehicle. And I'm in a damn good vehicle. If I execute, I think I'll walk away from this with somewhere right around $50 million. And to me, money's good. I've got it. But that, I can go do whatever I want. If I want to go chase $1 billion and I have a base of 50 million, I can go get $1 billion, Absolutely. And so for now, let's just head down and let's win this thing. Let's put the right people on the boat, put them on the vehicle, get them to row, and let's all go there together. And let's do it until somebody offers us too much money to keep doing
it. I love it. Yeah.
It'll come down to that.
That's cool. What are your top 2 favorite books? Doesn't have to be business related, just something that's really impacted your life.
The ones that have impacted my life the most are probably The Miracle Morning. And the reason I love that book is because anybody can do it. You just do it and it will change your life, period.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. No one said that one on the podcast yet, so that's a good one.
Well, I think maybe because it's not buzzworthy.
But I think we read that together though with Sam.
Yeah.
That's the first time I was introduced to it.
It's a game changer, right? I got my wife to read that, and she was a powerhouse until she had another kid, just up every morning doing her thing. Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David.
So good.
Yeah. I mean, it's killer. They all cover different things, right? That's a business strategy book. And then you got, The Miracle Morning is a life strategy book. And then I think the other third book that is just undeniable truth is probably Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. That is what it takes. Yep.
Have you read Choose Your Enemies Wisely yet?
No. How is it?
Dude. Oh my God.
Dude, PBD is, if I was thinking about this last night, I was like, if I could get 5 people in a room, and I thought about it, I was like, what would I say? I'm like, I wouldn't say shit. I'd just sit there and listen.
I'll be at his house next year.
You will?
Yeah.
Oh, how'd you do that?
So I go to all these events. I've been going to all these events for 3 years, and so I go to Sales Leadership Summit, and then I also go to the Vault every year. And so finally, I just pulled the trigger and bought the ticket for the Vault, the CEO version. And at the end of it all, we get to go hang out at his house till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's so sick, dude. And I think the coolest thing to me about him is I feel like he's about people. He is about the people. And for me, if I could pile 5 dudes in a room and just zip my mouth shut and listen, or women, I think I'd probably go Donald Trump, Alex Hermosi, not in order, but Alex Hermosi, living people, Patrick Bet-David,
Elon,
Cody Sanchez. And Elon. It's probably who I'd pick. And for a while, I was like, maybe Joe Rogan, but it's I couldn't get him on the podcast, so I'm just going to listen. But it's if I get all those people in a room, I don't know that I'd have notebooks enough to take notes.
Yeah. So with Patrick, what I've learned at the event with Patrick Bet-David is his seating, obviously from front to back, is all different, right? You pay different tickets. But what I've learned over the last few years, the people that are just general admission are people who maybe are just starting out in business, or they maybe are just thinking about going into business, kind of at the beginning of their career. But the further you move up, is where like the people who've been in business a long time. So like they do breakout centers called case studies where they put up a problem on the board and you have to like figure it out as a group. In the back of the room or the middle of the room, I felt like I was the one who was giving all the answers. And I don't want to be that. Like, I'm not there to give the answers. Like, I want to be rubbing elbows with people who are giving me the answers so I can learn. So that was what I learned from going to those events. So I just went all in, bought the CEO ticket, paid the 12 grand.
Oh, that's not even that bad.
No, it's not bad.
And this is what I think people don't understand. If we get into a personal development sphere instead of talking about pest control, it's like you pay for your education. And so you just paid 12 grand for an education, period. Right. And whatever you get out of that 12 grand, you pay 12 grand to some college, not even close for what you're trying to do in your life. And people always ask me, like, what's the best investment you've ever made? It's stuff like that. It's not, I've made like my $160,000 into a branch that's going to profit me 10 million or whatever, like cool. But the stuff that's made me capable of doing that is what you just said. It's like, it was 12 grand for this ticket. So I did it. It's like, that's it, man. That's how Jonas becomes the next version.
Yeah. And the same thing with like the Sam Taker thing. Like that back then to me was a lot of money. It was like 70 grand. It's a lot of money anyone. But investing 70 grand in this company, right? Like you're like, man, well, hopefully this pays off. And the people are like, you spent how much money for them to teach you what? But that next week, when I came back home, we put 100 grand in revenue.
I was thinking this the other day because I was like, I got guys that are like, man, I just can't pay that. I'm like, put it on a credit card.
I did it. I was that guy.
Yeah, you got to. And I think there's something to be said, if any people that have listened to this what we're talking about this long, there's something I've learned. My back was against the wall the entirety of my 20s. Like when my back's against the wall, I'm swinging. Like I'm winning. I got to figure out a way out. I turned like, 30, 31, 32, and financially my back came off the wall. I was fine. And there's something to be said about, hey, I can't afford this mastermind, put it on a credit card. Like as much money as I've made, I just did another mastermind this year. And I was looking over all the expenses and stuff. And I was like, damn it. Like I just got audited by the IRS, had a big tax bill, like had all this stuff, bought this big old house. And it's like, maybe not the year to be dropping an additional $25,000 between the mastermind and the travel. So I got a credit card with zero interest. I'll pay it off next month type of a deal. But it's like, I can't not get that education. If I have next year where I'm not involved with people that are better than me, I'm losing. Somebody else like you is plugged into that and you're going to beat me. Right. And it's the most valuable thing I can do with my money, I think.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And every time that I've, risked that much money, like again, just the same way you just said, I literally put on a credit card. I didn't have $70,000 at the time. Like I was like, oh, whatever happens is going to happen. And I went all in. But so when I went to Sam's event and you said if you were into those event with those 5 people, you just sit back there and shut up. That was me.
I remember when we started talking, I was like, I can't figure this guy out because he's really smart, but he acts like he doesn't know anything. And I was like, what is he? And then, but you're so authentic that like, I came to realize that quickly. And dude, I think if you played the game in Utah, you'd be dangerous because I think you are humble to the point where you will go learn anything and execute on it. And that to me is such an impressive quality. And I remember feeling that when I met you.
I appreciate it. Last question of the day, because like I said, I've already taken a lot of your time, so I appreciate spending this much time with me. It's super awesome.
Yeah, I'm all good, man. We'll go all day if you want.
What are you most proud of?
My family. I don't think that any winning outside of those walls of my home are equal to that. So I'll get emotional, but
Why I do it, buddy.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing that means more to me than that. So that's what I'm the most proud of. I'm gonna be honest, like as far as business goes, like I don't find pride in it because I think it's repeatable. I think anybody can do it. And I think when people come to me and act like it's special, I feel really bad for them because I have the same issues anybody else does. And that's one thing that I've taken from these mastermind events. I find guys going way bigger than me, asking questions I have the answers to. And I just realize we're all the same, right? So it's like in business, I don't feel super proud of what I do. I do feel proud of what the guys accomplish. When I see somebody come in that doesn't have faith in themselves and they develop it and they win, I love that. And if I can play a role in that, that's really fun for me. But yeah, I don't feel pride in anything except for like my kids and my wife.
But you're ultra competitive too. So do you have a problem celebrating small wins or any wins?
No, I love the wins, but I also this is something that's been repeated to me a bunch when I get around people. Like Alex Hall said it to me like 2 days into meeting me. A bunch of people have said it. They're like, you're super even kill. Like you don't get riled up or like, and like, I don't like when the wins come, I'm just like, nice. I expected that. I worked my ass off. Like I don't play the game to lose, right? Like I played it to win.
Oh yeah, I definitely know that.
And when the losses come, I also expect it. Like, cause I know that that is the other side of that coin. Like either I'm going to win or this thing's going to get me. And it's going to be like, I think it was Ed Milet said this, and he's like, I did the math and I've only hit 20% of the goals I've ever set in my life. I'm like, okay, if that's his number, I'm probably like 12, right? Or 5. So like, I know when I'm in the pursuit of something big, this is the biggest downfall of entrepreneurs is they'll get hit and act like it's over. It's like, no, buddy, it's just starting. Like that was just the shot that set it off, right? Like someone's got to throw the first punch. You get hit, you take a loss, swing back. It's not oh, damn, I'm so upset by this. I expect it. It's par for the course. Anyone that goes to do anything big is going to get kicked over and over, right? So when I get the wins, here's just my policy is the losses never go on the trophy shelf, ever. I don't think about them. I don't look at them. I don't reflect on them. And when I do, and then I'm done. And that's it.
You learn from them, right?
Yeah. And that's it though. But you see people that will like be stuck 2 years later because they put that loss on a trophy shelf and they think about it. They throw that shit in the garbage, light the garbage on fire and never touch it again. Right. But the wins, yeah, they'll go on a shelf and I'll acknowledge them. I'll just like look at them and smile, but I'm not going to sit back and rest on them. It's like, so when I get them, I'm just like, yeah, cool. Like I worked my butt off for this. I expect it. I don't know, man. I train on that too because I see people that are like, man, I got this win 6 months ago. And I'm like, yeah, but you suck right now. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I like the wins. The wins are cool.
When you do win, do you reward yourself?
It depends on how big the win is. I have this problem where like now that, I don't know, I have everything I want, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's not true because I think I just seen a post on Instagram where you showed a gym in the basement.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed before. So like, I got to go get, I'd like that. But it's like at 32, okay, I really want a Porsche. Like I really do. I love them. You know, I was looking at them last night.
That was last weekend.
Yeah, I remember messaging you about it. But it's like, there are some things I want. If I really was like, I need to buy a Porsche, I could go buy one.
Go buy one. Yeah. But to me, I think, I could just go buy like 6 more pest trucks. Let's just go do that first.
And then I'm just thinking, I was talking to my brother today because I moved out of a house into a much bigger house and kept the house that I moved out of, pulled some money out of that one and put it towards this one. And I was like, man, I got this $300,000 home equity line of credit. I got to hurry and pay off. But I'm just going to go buy 4 or 5 more houses to pay it off. Like I'm just going to go get more cash flow to do it. Like the businesses are going to keep humming. So my excess cash isn't going to go to that. I'm going to go buy more cash flowing assets to pay for it. And that's the same conundrum I get in with wanting a Porsche. It's like the one I want is going to be $200,000. So
absolutely. It's going to be the GT3 or the RS or something. You know what I mean? It's going to be the nice one. Yeah. I can't just go out. I just buy a half-ass Porsche. You can't.
No. Right. And so it's like, if I want that one, okay, let me go take down, let's say I go take down 2 million in real estate, then that win, yeah, okay, I'll go do that thing. But up to this point in my life, as far as rewarding myself, I have the things that I really want. And so, no, I don't really reward myself unless it's something huge, you know, like that I really, and I generally will at the onset, I'll be like, okay, if I do this thing, I'm going to do this.
Yep. I'm the same way. And I teach my guys that too, because if you don't do that, and you don't celebrate the win, don't buy yourself something. There's nothing tangible, which that could mean, hey, go buy your wife something really cool. Take her out to dinner to a fancy restaurant, something that she can see the reward of your work efforts too. Or if you just don't celebrate and you forget about it, it's like you do it again, and then the next month you're going to hit a slump because you didn't reward yourself.
Yeah, no, I do think it's really important. And so I guess I've never like, after every, big accomplishment financially or whatever, like we have a lifestyle change at a certain point, or we, a kid's coming down the pipeline, so a new vehicle or whatever it is, like all that stuff happens. But we've never, since we've been in like the mode of having kids and doing those things, most of that has been accessible when we need it. And so at this point, like if I sold one of the branches and made 10 million bucks, I would like reward myself by buying real estate. Like I'm not going to go.
Just the next game, right?
Yeah, it's just, and at some point I'll buy a jet. Like that will be the reward at some point. That's what I really want is a jet. Cause why not, but, yeah, I don't know, man. I have most of the things I want. So next house, yeah, we'll do a gym in the basement or something. That'll be cool.
I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, you were right. I do want some stuff, but it's not so immediate that I feel the need to go do it right now. So,
and I think I seen a picture of Nick building a new house today too.
Yeah, his is way cooler than mine. So it's I'm not comparing. Like I'm very happy with what I have, and I'm more happy for him to have what he's getting than I am for me to have what I have. But yeah, his wife is an interior designer, and they're very connected with like good architects and stuff. So he bought a piece of property a while back that's like where we live. There's not another one like it, and there was an existing house on it they demolished. So they're building their sick house. Yeah, it'll be cool.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. You're a stud. You're a good friend, and I appreciate everything you've done for me, and what I'm sure you'll continue to do for myself and the industry as a whole. So thanks for taking the time to spend with us.
Anytime, man. Anytime call me whenever. I love talking. So
cool. Sounds good, buddy. Yeah. See ya.
See ya. Bye-bye.